Bye! Right off the bat, I'm gonna say this about transgenderism. Not transgender identifying individuals, okay? They're human beings. They need help. Transgenderism. The transgenderism ideology is nonsense. It is nonsensical. It doesn't make sense when you talk it through. Hence why no one wants to talk it through. It's like this illusion in the form of a pane of glass. And the person who wants to talk this through with the transgender identifying individual on the other side of the pane, they have this tiny little hammer. And with every question, you know, with every challenge, with every criticism, they're just knocking away, you know, cracking the glass. The cracks are traveling around the pane, stretching the metaphor a little bit, but whatever, until eventually, hopefully, the pane of glass shatters, the illusion shatters. Now, the reason that this is so deep, the reason this is such a heated issue, especially for that transgender identifying individual, is because this is about who they are. This is wrapped up in their identity. They've come to believe that this is who they are. That's why they deserve compassion. So, you know, every time you try and have a conversation about transgender issues, you get cancelled. You get shut down because there's so much emotion wrapped up in the debate. That's what's fueling it. That's what fuels transgenderism. It's not truth. Truth doesn't fuel transgenderism. Feelings do. Dysfunction does. So, you know, let's call it what it is. Transgenderism is a cult. Because when you're in it, you believe non-reality and you disbelieve reality. And what's more, you adopt this tyrannical way of thinking and behaving where you find yourself forcing other people to kneel, as it were, to your own identification. So a person who doesn't want to partake in the whole pronoun thing, this person is automatically a bigot. This person is a hater. This person is transphobic. Even a person who would rather not date a trans man or a trans woman, this person is a bigot, transphobic, how dare you. It gets to such an extreme where if you don't agree, or if you don't shut your mouth, you're the bad guy, automatically, regardless of anything. This is a cult that teaches young people, children, teenagers, to identify their very being with their sexual desires and preferences. Sexual desires and preferences that they weren't born with, so that these young people, this generation, can themselves be sexualized and be sexualizers of one another, so that they disobey the natural, necessary parental authority designated by God and the nuclear family, so that they become this utterly selfish, insecure, carnal generation, walking around with blinders on, obsessed with themselves, and not necessarily out of arrogance, more so in terms of the teenage girls whom the transgender ideology afflicts mostly, not out of arrogance, but out of deep insecurity. This ideology causes these young people to remain at war within themselves and therefore disregard the very real evils and injustices, the wars happening around them in the world and because of the world. Because the world is their friend. The world is their enabler. The world is the hand that feeds them and they dare not bite. Because once that illusion shatters, the fear is that you will be in this state of perpetual falling. You've nothing to ground your identity in. You believe that this is who you are. And to lose that is to lose yourself. That's what you think anyway. It's not necessarily true. What is gender dysphoria? Gender dysphoria is characterized by a severe and persistent discomfort in one's biological sex. The last decade has witnessed a sudden surge in teenage girls claiming to have gender dysphoria and or self-identifying as transgender. And this is very strange because historically this only afflicted a teeny tiny percentage of the population, something like 0.1%. And it's still a teeny tiny percentage, but historically the majority of that teeny tiny percentage was teenage boys. What happened? How did the minority of those afflicted suddenly become the majority? Why did the sex ratio flip so dramatically? You may think that the answer is so complex. I don't believe that it is. I believe the effects, these are complicated. This is complex. This is messy. But the cause, I believe, is quite simple, or at least the major cause. Unfiltered, unregulated access to social media and the online world, partnered with a lack of socialization, and over the past 2 or 3 years, an active desocialization. Do you know that there are tutorials online that teach you how to self-harm? Anorexia, cutting, suicide. And once your kid sees that, once that door is opened, once self-harm becomes a possible means to deal with stress or a means to get attention, that's when the complications arise. And because of the way teenagers are psychologically, socially, during that period of time, a human being is beginning to form who they are independent of their parents, of their family unit. It jumps from one kid to another, to another, to another, like a contagion. It's no exaggeration to say that kids these days are facing the world's worst mental health crisis. What I know for sure is that gender dysphoria has nothing to do with your sexual attraction. Your sexual attraction is not the cause. It never has been. Adolescent girls today typically will reject the boy-girl dichotomy. You'll notice that they will make little effort to adopt stereotypically masculine traits and behaviors. That was more what my generation and around that time did. That's how that generation explored this whole gender dysphoria thing, which basically meant that you became a lesbian or you became a gay man. These girls, however, label themselves as queer, or they self-identify as transgender, with their gaze fixed on no particular destination. They flee womanhood like a house on fire. Generally speaking, it's not that these girls want to become boys, it's that they don't want to be girls. Though a small percentage of transgender identifying individuals go through those stages to change their sex, or at least the appearance of their sex. Back in my day, tomboy was the thing you were called if you were a girl who enjoyed sports and preferred the comparatively straightforward company of boys. Because girls, or at least your experience or perception of girls, were by and large emotionally unsafe or just kind of boring. But these days, there's no such thing as a tomboy. You don't exist as a not girly girl. You straight up transition. Girl and boy are perceived as these undesirable extremes, and everything in between is labelled queer or transgender or non-binary. And the reason I make this comparison between generations is because you even have lesbians and gay men being shoved down the same chute as heterosexuals by this transgenderism ideology, because it's all about destroying the male and the female. It's all about destroying that union. It's all about destroying that family unit, because that unit is powerful, it's healthy. The new idea is that, for example, a girl who presents as masculine, she's straight up a boy. Like, she's not a boyish girl, she's a boy. That's the thinking, which is dumb and nonsensical, since simultaneously this ideology denies the validity of girl-boy. Now, I really do suggest that you read Irreversible Damage by Abigail Schreier. She has done the due research, and the book is excellent. If you don't like to read, you can just find her interviews. She's done many of them on YouTube, talking about this book. What I want to do with this information is I want to talk about design. I want to talk about the relationship between biology and identity, between the what and the who. If God doesn't exist, you and I can do whatever we want with ourselves, and we can do whatever we want to one another. Because without having been designed, without there being a mind behind the universe, behind my body, behind who I am, behind who you are, humanity is without ultimate purpose. And another way to say that humanity is without ultimate purpose is to say that there is no right or wrong way to live. There's no right or wrong way for me to use my body or to use another human being. And life is chaos. We're basically just brutal animals. The thing is, though, we all know that there's more. We have an intrinsic sense that there's more, that we were made for more, that we have rights. We can observe that life is not chaos, that there's purpose, that there's order, that something isn't quite right, something's imperfect, something's suboptimal. We have that sense. And the reason is that God exists. There is a design. And we know, a person may not believe or trust in God, but we know that there's something more. We know that there is an ultimate purpose. We know that there is objective morality and all these things. We all have a sense of a right way to live and a wrong way to live. There's a purpose, there's a reason to why the natural world is the way that it is. That's why we can expect to find laws in nature. Likewise, there is a reason why we are biologically what we are. A girl is a girl for a reason, and she rejects that biological fact for a reason or for reasons. And that reason cannot be merely sexual attraction, because sexual attraction is an effect, and the effect can't be the cause. No, the cause is something else. And when we take the time to delve a little bit deeper into our own psychology, into our own pasts, we're faced with those uncomfortable, painful reasons. And we find ultimately, we find that this same-sex attraction, or this self-identifying as non-binary or queer or transgender, is to reject our femininity, our femaleness. Why? Why would you reject your femininity? I'll give you a couple possibilities. Maybe some of them resonate with, maybe some will resonate. Maybe it's something different entirely. Perhaps you grew up in an environment that taught you that men were violent and unsafe, that women were weak and vulnerable and victims of men. Perhaps you grew up in the shadow of a brother. Perhaps you learned then that boys get more attention just because they're boys. You learn that boys are preferable to girls. Perhaps you were dominated by a male figure, your father or a brother, whom you simultaneously admired and wanted to be like, whom you simultaneously craved acceptance and validation from, while also hating them a little bit because of how they treated you, or how they allowed for others to treat you. Maybe you were bullied then at school for being boyish, for having certain interests or dressing a certain way. Maybe your female peers at school bullied you because you were not like them, you didn't do the things that they did. Maybe you just didn't know how to access that part of you. Maybe you didn't know how to, maybe you were bullied by the girls you grew up with, girls you went to school with, because you didn't do the things that they did. But maybe you just didn't know how to relate to girls. Maybe you were more comfortable with boys. Maybe you just found it easier to relate to them. Maybe your male peers harassed you. Maybe your male peers began to harass you when you developed biologically as you went through puberty. And maybe you felt that there was nothing you could do to defend yourself or to correct them, and no one else seemed to do it either. It was just accepted. Maybe you developed this need to fill the void of fatherlessness in your family. Maybe you felt that it was your job to be the protector in your family because no one else seemed to be taking up the role. Maybe you were your mum's emotional husband or your father's emotional wife. Maybe your dad was vilified. Maybe he really was villainous. Maybe you were traumatized by not being able to defend your mum or yourself or a sibling or even a close friend. Maybe a close friend or a family member was sexually inappropriate with you. Maybe no one believed you. Maybe you just didn't tell anyone. The point is, ask yourself, why do I have the desires that I have? Why do I have these beliefs about men and about women? Whether your desire is to take testosterone and mutilate your body to try and fit how you feel, or whether it is to attempt to win a broken woman's heart because you know that you could love her better than any man could, or at least that's what you believe. Or to be the father or the brother that you needed, to be the husband that your mother needed, or the wife that your father needed. The point is, people, this is deeply psychological, and statistically, this isn't solved by just playing along with the dysphoria, with the discomfort. Nor is it solved by physically manipulating your physicality. A child or a teenager, or hey, maybe you're an adult in distress, cannot be reduced to a single problem. To reach an accurate understanding of a person, whether you're a professional or whether this is you need to look at the whole person. You need to look at the whole of yourself. Gender dysphoria isn't the whole issue. It's the indicator that there's a problem. Why does a kid believe the things that they believe about what it means to be a boy or what it means to be a girl? Why do they believe that transitioning will lead them to a better, happier, more fulfilled life? Gender dysphoria is a coping mechanism for trauma and other distress. To fixate on gender dysphoria or on a child or teenager's desire to transition is to completely miss the mark. And remember that their brain is not fully developed until about 25. They don't know what they're doing. They shouldn't have autonomy in this area. It's not safe. And there are plenty of cases that prove this. If you are a healthcare professional, or if you yourself are struggling with these things, affirmative therapy isn't therapy. That is therapy that just tells you, yeah, you know what, you're right, you are a boy, even though you're biologically female. Let's give you some pills. That's not going to help you. It's not going to solve anything. Simply going along with this feeling of discomfort with your sex isn't going to help. It's not going to help you to become comfortable in your skin, and it's not going to bring you into a fullness and an acceptance of your self. If God exists, biology has a purpose. It's not a mishap, it's not irrelevant. The fact that you are at odds with your design, with your biology, is a sign that biology matters. Me being born female has a purpose. And I'm not just me, I'm not alone on an island. I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm a granddaughter. So this is about, so your biology as a female, as a young girl, isn't just about you for yourself, it's about you relationally. There's a purpose to you being someone's daughter. There's a purpose to you being someone's sister. Your identity can't be reduced simply to your sexual preference or the fact that you feel discomfort in your sex. It's not that simple. Your soul expression, who you are, is not that simple. It's dynamic. It encompasses everything. It encompasses a whole lot more. Being female is part of who you are. Your biology houses your femininity. It's its home. It houses who you are. What you are houses who you are. And if I were to spend my life repressing what I am, rejecting it, and even attempting to destroy it, I do not draw closer to who I am. I move farther and farther away. I move further and further away. What you are and who you are, they need to be married together. That's healthy. But to sever them, or to have them severed, and then to perpetuate that disassociation, is to slowly but surely destroy who you are, is to slowly but surely destroy yourself. Explore these things, explore these questions. Why do I reject my femininity? What would happen if I embraced my femininity? How would that make me feel? It's critical thinking. It's what you do at higher levels of education, hopefully. It's not bigotry. We have to be in a position where we can put our fears and our feelings on the back burner just for a minute and explore this gender dysphoria, this transgenderism objectively. Get objective with yourself. Get real with yourself. That's your way forward. That's how you can begin to deal with that persistent discomfort. That's how you can begin to bridge this gap between what you are and who you are. Right? Gotta go. See you later. My name is Christ Defender. I defend the Christian faith. I answer questions and criticisms concerning Christianity. If you like what I do and you would like to support me, hit the Patreon link in the description below. If you're not too sure yet, but you're intrigued, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, check me out. Okay, bye!